Hi guys, Ruth here again from Beltane Gifts. Welcome to the crafting Chez. I am, as you can see, back in the shop still. It's still cold. Today I thought I'd show you how to make one of these little guys. The idea came to me after my previous video, which is of the snowman here, and after noticing that the carrot that I made for the snowman's nose looked a lot like a beak. His carrot does look like a beak. I thought, well, why not make an actual beak and a penguin? So they seem quite Christmassy. I'm going to put it in a scarf so that it looks even more Christmassy, and yeah, thought I'd give it a go. Now, like last time's video, I'm going to do this one in the quick way. So this isn't how I would normally do it. How I would normally do it would be the same way I did the reindeer, where I'd make the ball first and then use that to change it into the shape that I want. Doing it that way means that all your fibres are interconnected, they're very strongly felted together, they keep their shape well, and basically, personally, I find that that is a really good way of felting small shapes, but it's not the quickest way, and as I've been told that some of my videos drag on a little bit, I thought I would do the quick way of felting. So down here I have a collection of things I'll be using. I've got some black felting fibre. This is carded fibre. It's got a shorter staple, so the fibres are slightly shorter. It's got more crimp to it, so they've got more texture to the fibres. It means that you can felt them together quickly. I've got some white in the same. I've got some orangey yellow for the beak and the feet. This is actually merino broken tops. I'm only using this because this is what I've got handy at the minute. Again, short staple, quite messy, felts together quite quickly. It is reasonably messy once it's felted though, or it has been for me. Just a heads up for that. I have got some dark green acrylic felt. This is just for making the scarf. It's just a strip of it. I find it's really easy to make things like scarves out of this, and it's quick. You could felt your own if you wanted to, create a flat piece of felt out of wool, but I've got this handy so I don't need to. I've got my felting needle. I'm using again a gauged needle. This is a 36, so it's quite a fine felting needle, but the notches in it I find catch the fibres really well, so it again is quicker. Finger protectors, just to protect our fingers. Needle and thread, I'm using black thread for this because I'm going to be using these black beads here. These are 8mm beads, they're quite big, but I'm going for a very cute anime style penguin rather than realism, so these work quite well. I have got 3. I do know the penguin only has 2 eyes. This is in case I drop one. Now these are on a piece of acrylic felt just to stop them rolling away, and I haven't been wearing my microphone for this, so hopefully you heard me. This should be, oh, there we go. Can you hear me better now? There we go. So we've got all our pieces in place. I'm going to move them out of the way to start off with. What I'm going to do is, as I've got more black fibre here than white, you could do it either way round. What I'm going to do is make the whole thing out of the black fibre first and then fill in the white bits afterwards. You can, as I say, do it, make the whole thing out of the white fibre if that's what you've got more of, and then fill in the black sections afterwards. It's completely up to you. So let's move things out of the way. Pop on our finger protectors. These go on the hand that's going to be holding your work. Okay. Now, instead of making a ball and messing up your fibres first and doing it the proper way, what I'm going to do is just take my black fibre and I'm going to wrap it. I'm not wrapping it too tightly. See, there's still some squidge in it, but I'm doing it reasonably tight just so that it's going to hold its shape, and the tighter you do it, the more it holds its, the quicker it is to felt. The only downside being that although it's quicker to felt, you're going to end up with more lines and mess, so just enough so that, see, it's still got some squidge to it. And what I'm going to felt first is this bit here, which is the end of the fibre. Now the reason we do this is so that it doesn't unravel as we work. So I'm stabbing reasonably firmly, and we are going to be kind of turning it into a ball. So if you have a look at the ball video, if you haven't already, that'll take you through the process for doing that. Mainly what I'm doing is imagining there's a centre to this wadge of fibre, and I'm always stabbing towards that centre. So no matter where I'm stabbing from, I'm always aiming from right in the centre of the ball. So I'm just going to go over this. And what I'm aiming for here is just the lines where the fibres meet, so where one layer attaches to the layer below. I'm just going over these lines just to make sure everything's secure. And this stops the fibres from unravelling as well and just getting all messy. Now, for the penguin shape, I'm going to have to aim for that sooner than I would do if I was making the ball, just because there isn't as much give in this fibre as there would be had I done it the other way. So what I'm going to decide is what's going to be the base. This is going to be my base. So I'm going to stab round in a little circle and just flatten this. So I'm stabbing at a 90-degree angle to the surface I want to create. And see how that's starting to flatten that. So that's going to be my base. This is going to be my top, and I want it to be taller than this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stab in and work upwards when I stab. So what this is doing is, as I'm stabbing, the fibre is getting squished, and what I want to do is squish it that way. If I stab starting from the top and working my way down, the bottom will get bulgier. We don't want that. So always stabbing towards the top. If you've got a felting pad, you can at this point put it on your felting pad. I'm personally just holding it and not stabbing all the way through. But if you're new to this and you just need a little bit of help because you're not quite sure of how deep to stab yet, a felting pad underneath would be really handy. Now when I'm holding it, I'm trying not to squeeze too much from top to bottom, because what that'll do is compress the fibres this way and mean that it's shorter. So just hold it lightly. What you can also do is, if you find that your work is too short, you can add more fibre on top and create like a head section, but I'm going to see if I can do it all in one. If not, don't worry, I will just add. So we've been going for about 8 minutes, well, less really, because I was talking at the beginning, and already it's starting to get that dome shape. So as you can see, it's definitely much quicker doing it this way than the other way. And what I'm doing now is starting to aim for bits that are sticking out more than others. You'll be able to see when you're doing yours that there's certain bits that look a bit bulgy, in which case just aim for those. It's just because those fibres are going to be looser than the others, and it just means that it needs to be stabbed to hold it into place. Now to create the dome shape, when I was doing the ball, I imagined just a single point in the centre of the ball. For the dome, what I imagine is a core, a line going right from the base all the way to the top. And when I'm stabbing, I'm always stabbing towards that core line, and that gives us this dome shape. Now when you're working, it's also important to have a look at the whole thing, and just to see how the shape's going. It's like I've got a lumpy bit, if you can see it there. It's not as smooth as the other side, so I'm just going to aim for that a bit more, and that's going in quite a lot, so it just shows that it just wasn't stabbed as evenly. That's one of the downsides with doing it the quick way, is that you're not going to end up with a very even felt. It's going to be a bit hit and miss. But this is for Christmas decorations. They're going to be out once a year. They're not going to really get handled or anything, so you can get away with it. Okay, so I'm just going to flatten the base again, just because as you can see it's gone a little bit lumpy. And again, I'm working at that 90-degree angle just to make sure I get a nice flat base. Okay, now what I'm also going to do is just roll it between my palms. Think of it a bit like clay, so you've still got a bit of give. You can actually help increase its height doing this. There we go. Smooths it out a little bit too. So we are ready now to add our white section. Now I've done myself just a very basic little drawing there on a post-it, just because I forgot what a penguin looked like. So I've got that handy. That's just at the top so I can see it, and I'm going to follow that when I'm adding my sections of white fibre. Now what I want is a belly section that goes up, and then a section where the face goes. Now there is a bit of a line that I want to create, so what I'm going to do is actually use a smaller amount of fibre, just because it's going to be easier to control. If, like me, you've got different colours caught up in it, just pull those off before you felt. I'm going to mess this up a little bit, rub it between my palms just to bring in those loose fibres. Just gives you a neater edge when you're felting. Okay, I'm going to lie this just on the side there. Now I want to come up as an angle round here, so I'm going to stab along, not quite on the edge yet, and this just gives me a bit of wriggle room if I want to change the shape of the edge I'm doing. There we go. So I'm just doing my little curve, and then what I can do is just stab this little bit here in, giving myself a neater edge. Go. Now the reason we do our edges first is, one, because if you don't do your edges first and you stab in the middle, everything gets sucked in, and we don't want that. And two, this is the bit people are going to notice, so we want the edge to be as neat as possible. The rest of it, it's not really going to matter, it's just going to be a block of colour. So quickly over there. Now because my other edge is going to be a little bit wider, I'm going to use another piece of fibre for that, and I'm going to work from that direction inwards towards the centre. So don't worry too much about this bit, just this curve up here. And then I'm going to start stabbing over the whole thing. I was using my thumb before just to hold it in place as I got my edge. Now I'm just going to stab over the whole thing. Don't need to stab too deeply, we don't want to change the shape of the whole thing, we just want to make sure that this colour is secured. So little stabs close together gives you a smoother finish, and it also makes sure you get all of it so it's not bits flying away and going all lumpy. Okay, so I'm going to grab another bit, mess it up a bit. Get rid of any bits in it that we don't want, and roll it between our palms just to get those loose bits. Now there's more than I need, so I'm going to spread it out a bit. What I'm going to do is do this edge here and then use the top part for the face. So same as before, using my thumb to hold it in place, I'm just going to stab along the bottom here just to attach that. And then I'm going to stab up my curve. Remember to have a look at your previous one, you want them to kind of match up. So the curve's kind of going here. These bits can be stabbed in. Now I'm stabbing with my needle, 45-degree angle, catching these fibres and stabbing them down and under. Reason I'm doing that is because that will bring up the belly section, and I can flatten that down in a minute, and it just keeps everything neat. Okay, so we want to do our face section now. So I'm just going to work around the outside edge again. Just in kind of a circle. Now I haven't stabbed across the top yet, and that's because it's almost like a widow's peak going on for the penguin. So what I want to do is make sure this bottom bit is secure, and I've got most of my fibre just stabbed down this way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where the eyebrows, if it was human, would be, which is to about here. Same on the other side. Leaving this very top section here unstabbed. Now once the sides are nice and securely felted, what I'm going to do is with my needle I'm going to stab down in a point. So if you can see that, I'm using my needle at a very steep angle, just catching the fibres and stabbing them down. Now because I've attached here, these bits are holding their position. This bit is the only bit we want to move, and we're going to stab all around the outside edge now, just to neaten that up, and then stab down. Now we don't want to stab straight down until we've got the peak where we want it, otherwise what would happen is we'd be pinning it over the peak. So move it out the way first, then stab down, because we want to flatten this a little bit. Again, little jabs, not too deep, just to catch those sticky up bits. Any loose bits here, just use your low angle with your needle, catch them and stab around them. There we go, I'm going to give them a little squish. I'm going to stab the black bit towards the white bit a bit, just because it's flattened a tiny bit, which wouldn't happen if we'd felted it properly. So, there we go. I think I'm going to stab round the neck area now. I think I want to bring it in just a bit. So where this bit is, I'm going to be stabbing down, and I'm going to move that round just lightly, because what I want to do is create almost a shoulder section here. So really lightly, just stabbing all the way round. Just to make this head just that little bit smaller than the body. Don't worry if it's not going in completely at this point, you can go over it again. I think what I'll do is I'll go back the other way, just so that we're not pulling the fibres just completely in one direction. And what I'm going to do is just stab over this, and just imagine that it's a separate ball. So we want it to be reasonably even. I'm going to just stab in. And notice how I'm changing my angle as I move, so that I'm stabbing towards that central point again as I go, and that just rounds everything off. Okay, so now it's got a smaller head. Now they also have flippers, so what we're going to do, we're just going to go over this white bit again, and I'm just going to stab down. And what I'm doing is I'm stabbing downwards on this line, and I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's creating an indent. So I'm just going to stab in and down, and it's just on that line. We don't want to stab too much the other way, because what we want to do is make this black bit stick out. And then I'm stabbing from the side just to round off the chest. Down, down, down. And we want to create a wing, so what I'm going to do is just stab in a line, just about so far back, and we're just going to bring it round so that we get a nice kind of point to the wing or flipper. And the great thing is we don't have to do this separately, we just do it as part of the body, but you still get that impression of what's being created. There we go, we're going to do the same on the other side. So kind of that much down here. And I'm stabbing quite deeply here because I do want to change the shape. I'm stabbing close together, so it's almost a sawing motion. Just be careful if you're doing this for the first time, you don't want to break your needle. So I definitely recommend, if you're learning, just to take your needle out completely before you do your next stab. Okay, just going to bring this in a touch. So we want to add a beak. Now I have noticed with the penguin pictures I've got that this peak is even lower, so I'm just going to bring this down a bit more and just make it a little bit wider by stabbing out. So stabbing from the side and side. And I think because I've made quite a high bit here and I want my eyebrows and nose to be in line, I'm going to add just a bit more fibre. So I've got a section here, I'm just going to roll it into a bit of a ball. I'm going to add it, stretch it out, add it just over the eyebrows, just stabbing it in, and just down here. So where it's going to be attaching, and you're going to see the line, I'm doing that first. And then I'm stabbing it into the rest of the head. We want to keep the fullness around the eyes. Is it the eyes? The forehead. Fullness in the forehead. There we go. Now you see how that's just filled that out a bit more. I'm not going to overfelt this, it's not going to be touched, so it doesn't need to be overly felted. Just smooth it out a little bit. Okay, So I want to add the beak next. I'm going to take some of my orange, just a small section, probably even less than this, just a little bit less. Okay, so we've got just a tiny section here. I'm going to mess it up, roll it into a ball again. Actually, I'm going to add a bit more. Normally I do it bit by bit, but we're doing it quickly, so we're just going to add this. I'm going to put it where we want it, which is here. Just going to bring this peak down just a bit more, because I want my beak to be touching the peak. So there we go. And I'm going to change the shape, because this black section here works as almost the eyebrow. At the moment it's kind of got an evil villain kind of shape to it. Yeah, what we want to do is bring the white up a bit more here, and bring that up a bit more, so it's kind of like that. Nope, don't know what my eyebrows are doing at all right now, but we want cute, so we're going to bring the point up here, because that should make them cuter. Don't ask me why, it just does. There we go. So now we're going to add our nose, and what we want to do is create a curve at the top and a curve underneath. So I'm going to stab into the top here, which is the top part of the beak, and much as we added our fibre before, we're going to do the outline first. So we're going to want a little point down here, and then once we've got our points in, we're going to stab from below. We just want a smooth curve underneath, and then we're going to keep working round so it's nice and secure. And then we're just going to go a little bit higher up, stabbing down still, working our way round. And what you find, because we're doing like a flat section here and a flat section here, so my needle is stabbing that way and that way, because we want it flat, we're stabbing at a 90-degree angle. There we go. And underneath we're stabbing this way. And getting little stabs. We're not going too deeply now because we've done our big stabs to attach it. Now we're just trying to shape it. Now if you want to point at the end here, what you can do is just keep working with your little stabs at 90-degree angle to the flat planes here and here, and keep going right to the end, and that will just create a little point for you. So you're basically felting two triangles. And then we're going to stab from underneath as well. Now you could spend ages on this if you wanted to. Just keep going until you're happy with it and the expression he's got. I'm just going to pull these bits down here, just even out his eyebrows. Brilliant. Now if you wanted to, you can use the same technique. Please excuse the noise in the background, I'm not sure what's happening. If you wanted to, you can add some feet down here. So I'll show you how to do that. Sorry, just smoothing out where I've squished him. There we go. So, just bring that up a bit too. Sorry, I'll fiddle all day if I'm left to my own devices. So, we'll grab some more of this orange broken tops. I'm going to mess it up. And I'm going to add a little bit. What I'm going to do is mess it all up. I'm going to work out about half. Yeah, about half, because if you do it now you don't have to try and figure out how much fibre you use for one foot and try and do it for the other. So yeah, work it out now whilst you still haven't attached it. What I'm going to do, I need to roll it into a bit of a ball. Okay. I'm going to work from underneath to start off with, hold it in place with my thumb, give it a few stabs to attach. We want it nice and firmly attached. Then from on top I'm going to stab down, just catching the fibre and just turning it into a foot kind of shape. Now if you've got a felting pad, it'd be great to do this on a felting pad. Mine is somewhere, so I'm going to try and do it without. But if you had a felting pad you could just sit him like that and stab from above into the felting pad, which would be a lot easier, honestly. But hey, so I'm just going to stab over the whole thing, working from above and from below. Actually, I'm going to put that finger under, just to give me a bit of support. I wouldn't recommend doing this though if you're just starting, because the chances are you will stab yourself. So I'm just going to lightly, not stabbing all the way through, she says, go over the foot. I'm going to stab it a bit more that way because he's spreading. And it's just a case of getting your flat base outlined in the shape you want, just stabbing at a 90-degree angle just to get that flat base. And you see, because the way we're stabbing, what's happening is we're rounding this as we're pulling this fibre up and stabbing it into the body, and that's giving us kind of a rounded foot. If you want to, you can create little lines for the toes. I'd recommend only doing 2 lines. Just if you haven't got a felting pad, be very careful at this point. I'm just doing really tiny little stabs very close together, and I'm rotating my needle as I go so that the angle's changing, just so I'm not stabbing myself too much. And there you go, that's one foot. If you find, like mine, it's spreading a little bit, just again stab from the side to move it over. Then exactly the same process for the next foot. Okay, so that's the feet done. They're not exactly the same. I haven't spent as much time on the right one, but you get the idea, and you can spend as much time as you like on yours, getting them how you want them. What I really want to do is add his little eyes, which are going to give him his personality. So I have got my needle and thread. What we're going to do is, in the back of his head, actually we're going to go up from his back so that we can hide the tail. We're going to go up through the body. You see it coming out, and this is just so that the tail of your cotton can go inside the body. I'm going to pull that through there. Once it's inside, just do a couple of quick stitches at the back of his head. Actually, I can take my finger protectors off too now. We've finished stabbing. I can start doing my little stitches. Try and dig reasonably deep, just catch as many fibres as you can whilst making a really small stitch, and that's just so it's nice and secure. What we're going to do is stab through to where we want his eyes to be, and I think probably in the centre here. Ooh, where's my needle gone? There we go. Going to do a little stitch here, just so everything's really secure. If you're giving these as gifts to somebody who's got pets or children, or if you've got pets and children of your own, you're going to have these, just make sure the beads are really securely attached, just because they can be a choking hazard. So, got our bead there. Just going to go do another little stitch, catch the bead. Don't worry about it being huge. We're going to pull it into his head in a minute, which sounds more horrible than it is. Well, kind of. So, get it where you want it. We're going to stab back through, and we're going to go through to the back of his head again where we did our original stitches. What we're going to do is use our thumb to push it in a little bit, and then we're going to pull tight with the thread, and then do a couple of little stitches whilst your thumb is still holding down the bead, and this is just so it stays indented. Okay, a couple of stitches to secure it, and we're going to go back through to the other side. Now you can use what size beads you want. I'm using these 8mm. You can use slightly smaller because he is looking a little bit bulbous-eyed, but that's kind of cute, isn't it? So grab one of my other beads. Oh, got a little bit tangled. This should be the easy bit. There we go. Going to go through again and then through to the back of his head. Pull it nice and tight. Keep your thumb on it again. A couple of stitches. Now if you're using this as a Christmas decoration, you can use this thread that you've got left over if you want to create a hanging tag at the top. It is black thread, so it's not very festive. It's up to you. You can always add some shiny thread later just for a hanging tag, in which case what you would do is just the same as you've done, little stitches at the back, sew through the top, make a loop, and then do some more stitches at the back just to secure it. But I think that'll do for now. I'm going to sew down now and out of his back, and with my scissors, oh there they are, I don't know how I could lose them, they're huge. Just going to pull the thread tight and just trim the cotton there. Now if you can see your stitches, what you can do is just go over the top with a little bit of the black thread and black fibre, and just felt it into place just to hide those stitches. I'll quickly show you. So I'm just pulling off a section there. I've got some stitches there, so I'm just laying the thread, why do I keep saying thread? Fibre over that, and then just stab round the outside first, just so that the fibre doesn't get sucked in, all around the outside, and then just slightly over. There we go. And the last thing we need, once everything's in place, there we go, just get some of that fluff. Really, I should be wearing my finger protectors. There we go, is he could do with his scarf. So I've got my piece of green pre-cut felt, yep, and all I'm going to do is make some little tassels at the end by just cutting some very fine lines into the ends. Try and get them about the same length. I can't seem to achieve that for some reason, but hopefully you guys will be better than I am at it. Turn that over. There we go. I'm going to do the other end too. Oops, sorry, penguin. See if you're any good with tiny knitting, or normal knitting as I suppose most people refer to it. You could always knit him a little scarf. Personally, I can't use anything smaller than a 16mm needle, so it's kind of out for me. So what you can do then, just wrap it round and tie a little knot. And if you find that your scarf tends to stick up a little bit, this bit here, you can always give it just a couple of little stabs. Just to hold it in place. And there you go, there is your Christmas penguin. Yeah, I think he's quite cute. So, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, be sure to give it a thumbs up down there, it really helps me out. And if you've enjoyed the video and want to watch some more, just click on that subscribe button and the bell icon, and you'll get to see the new videos when they're first put out there. Yeah. If you want to leave me any comments, please pop them down in the comment section. I love to hear from you guys, and I will try to reply to you all if I can. Yeah. Thanks for watching.